what's up? Still in the aftermath of Sapphire Steel kind of being dead, trying to live through it all. And of course, the main thing for that is getting to experiment more with different cards. Yeah, I've got two lists here. One from Justin Jack Shadows, who was the original creator of the Kiwi Birds deck. And he wanted to try new things. He's such a player that always wants to try different options, different builds, different cards, and always wants to push the card pool and the list to as far as they can go, which I think is awesome, which means we get some creative things. And one from Bad Vegas, who I believe got the list from Sky, who Sky was also Sky's like one of the Sapphire Steel goats, like one of the probably the best Sapphire Steel player, and he had a original idea for a more diggy hole based build that I've got on the other screen that I'm going to cover as well. We've done a little bit of tweaking to it, but that's only from playtesting for a bit. And just say both these lists sort of very much in any sort of experimental phase. I can't say if either of them would ever be meta. I think at a store champs they would very much be performing well and getting you results. But I think a regional or like a bigger event, anything of like more than 100 people, you'd have to start questioning your choices of bringing these rather than one of the already kind of written into the meta um, sort of constructed decks that are in tier one, tier two, or whatever. So they're all sort of based around the whole Kiwi Bird build. Of course, this is Jafar, which to be honest with you is pretty great. Versus a lot of decks, versus a lot of the purple decks. If you're able to get these early Jafars out, and then you can keep putting Alice to give Jafar ward, it means you can just keep questing for a bunch of lore, and they should have a board that's kind of not really interactable. I think you do need to get certain components for this to work. I think you need to get Jafar, you need to get the sail out, and you need to get an Alice down. Of course, the Alice won't be touched until you start turning it sideways, so you probably want to use Sail, then get Alice, maybe play another 2-drop, and then play Jafar, and then just full quest, and they shouldn't be able to touch anything because they can't touch the Jafar, and they can't touch your questers, and you just quest for a bunch of lore basically. Of course, that'll work against a lot of the purple decks. Ruby Amethyst is probably the one that it would work the least against, but I believe with the Jafar, the idea is that you're preying on there being not really much Ruby around because, of course, this deck basically, I remember Justin trying it and testing it out, and it just wouldn't work really much when you had big Sisu around. So, with that card basically falling out of the meta quite heavily, I think you could take this into a room it was quite heavily on steel, which is what a lot of people are doing right now. We've got Amethyst Steel is like becoming the most popular deck, with Amber Steel quite behind it. And then you'll have Green Steel as well, and like Ruby Steel, I guess, is a thing. And even in the mirrors as well, like the only interaction you'd have is Strength of the Raging Fire. So I think it's a pretty cool list. I really do like the introduction of Jafar. I think you probably do need to play Sail if you're going to play it because we need to get to that. What do you call it? That six cost, that 6 ink slot as soon as we can. And I think even into the Ruby Amethyst decks, you could kind of just lean back on playing like 2-drop into Alice, Pluto, Cogsworth, ward up, aggressively quest out, and then just put Manners and Gantu to finish the game off. So I think there's just like some really fun options here. Again, I don't know how meta these are. Justin always says it performs quite well for him. But then again, he's also this type of player that whenever I watch play, it's like he's just playing at a higher level. I think he could pilot some of the worst lists I've seen to better results than I could ever pilot them to. So not saying this is the worst list I've ever seen. I'm saying this is a really cool list, and it's a really cool idea. I think as well with the ramp, especially with this other list as well, I'm showing the ramp is another way for you to get that points on the draw. Of course, the issues with Kiwi Bird is that on the draw, it's a very proactive game plan. So on the play, you pretty much always lock in your win, and then on the draw, it's kind of this fight where you have to be double spelling and you have to be singing removal and doing shifting and stuff like that just to try tempo swing yourself back into the game and maybe preying a bit on them having some low roll turns when you're on the draw. But with this build, of course, you can get the ramp, and that doesn't have to be into Jafar. That could be into an early Cogsworth. If you were to like double two drops or something like that. Like maybe you sail on two, and then you play a Smee and a Calhoun, and then the next turn you play Cogsworth, and you've basically got a very very strong board. On the play it's very strong, but on the draw it's also very strong as well. So you've got all those different options there that you can play with, which I just think makes it a really cool list. And I think as well, like 4x Gantu still felt quite strong in this meta, even in my own Kiwi Bird list, which I'll admit, like I've been doing the tour of all the decks because I think that's what every Sapphire Steel player should be doing right now, and it's what I've done. And again, it's maybe it's just a longing for Sapphire Steel ramp again. That I keep bringing myself back to these sort of curved Kiwi lists. I think maybe as well, as much as I loved ramp, I really do like Alice as a card. I think just right now we're going into this very heavy steel meta, so it feels like just the ability to give things ward is quite strong. Maybe playing some Chi and Pose would be a bit more useful as well, just because the only thing really right now that's catching out my Alice is they've got Crab or they've got Fox or whatever, and they can run into them. So just ways to protect the Alice for longer to give more things ward to quest for more should be great. But definitely Jafar locking out things like Fox and Crab from running in, and then giving everything ward and just basically outvaluing them, outquesting them. The only time I tend to lose in this deck is if they're just gonna like double genie and race you. You need to find a way back into the game with like saying strength from one of their genies or whatever, or make them do some awkward trades at the start with maybe a Smee questing and they run something in like one of their two drops or whatever. But overall, I think it's an awesome list. I think some people could definitely try it out, and it's one of them ones you want to play at your locals and go, "This was kind of fun." I might play this at a store champs. I think that's kind of the level we're at with this list, but it's pretty cool. This one, I think, to me, it felt a bit more meta viable, as the other one is basically just standard Kiwi, but you're aiming to do this Jafar ramp thing, which it just feels like it's not always consistent. The only ramp you have in there is the force sail. So I think you could probably add Tipo in there, but of course with this deck you don't really want to be attacking the hand at all. There's a lot of decks that will just take full advantage of that. You don't really draw a lot of cards, so like attacking the hand's always weak, whereas sail is very optimal. And the same here with this list. So like the original list, this three Pleakley was Lawrence's, and these two Gantus were um, Baymaxes, which to be honest with you, I think I'd swap them back out to be Baymaxes at this point. I just like Gantu sometimes as a lore closer. But yeah, I played a little bit of this list. Played some last night. It was one of those like lists I woke up and I was like, I want to keep playing this. I quite enjoyed it. So I played a little bit more in the morning, and it kind of took over a little bit of my Easter holiday, just playing this blue diggy hole thing that Bad Vegas showed me. And yeah, it's a very simple game plan. We're swapping out Alice and Pluto, and we still need to be using some Sapphire cards because otherwise, why are we playing Sapphire? Why do we not just play Amber Steel? But in this one, yeah, what we're doing is we want to aim to ramp on 3 every game, and then play a Beast or a Cogsworth or a Robin Hood, or no, maybe not a Gantu. Maybe swap that back out to the Baymax, and take advantage of we skip to turn 5 earlier. I found even versus red purple, if you were to go like 1 drop, 2 drop, ramp into Beast, and you've got this 3 drop Mickey Mouse set up to sing your Strength of the Raging Fire, let the story rage on, and then you can keep questing. Beast will draw you some cards. It'll be a bit of time before they can actually deal with this Beast, especially versus Ruby Amethyst, because they won't have the Elsa. And then if they're going to go for Medusa, it'll be another couple more turns, especially on the play. On the draw, you of course get 1 less card because they'll be able to deal with it earlier. But yeah, overall that seemed quite fun. And then you're just playing from this big card advantage because this beast has been drawing cards, and by the time then they're gonna have to put resources into dealing with that. Maybe you've played another beast, maybe you've docked and gone wide, maybe you're just singing enough removal that their board's quite weak. It seemed pretty fun. And then against like Amber Steel or other like steel decks, you can ramp and put a Cogsworth down, then you can put a beast down, or then you can dock and go wide, and you can keep singing removal. Mickey Mouse being a singer is pretty cool. Yeah, it felt like there was something there with this deck. This is definitely a deck that I play my locals on Tuesday nights, and it's a Monday today, so I play One Piece on Mondays. But I'm gonna definitely bring this down to locals just to test the waters with it. I think it's always a good place to try things out. So yeah, I want to try a list like this tomorrow. And I think it's another one of those ones that maybe at store champs this would be like a really cool list to run and win. Maybe like a winner box or something like that. Something where you're not doing like open deck lists and things like that, and you're just not trying to cheese a win, but trying to get a nice little win in like a winner box or like a winner case or like something like that. Maybe not a regional. I don't have the practice in with it yet to say that it'd be regional level good, but it seems pretty fun. And the only changes I really made in here was Pleakley, because when I played it, I was like, it's always that thing when you test the deck, like the first game, you get the line that has been described to you is where you play 1 drop, 2 drop, then you play the ramp on 3 into the beast, which is like the perfect line for this deck, and then the beast's giving this huge card advantage. You're singing removal, you're just basically putting your more characters on board than they can answer. By the time they can answer your board, you've already won the game. That was great. And then you're going to have a handful of games where you don't get the Mickey on 3 and the deck sort of doesn't really work. So I was like, hold on, if the best thing this deck does is ramp on 3 and you put a 5 drop down, I want to try and make sure I can do that as often as possible. So I put in the Pleakleys. And the Pleakleys aren't amazing. Majority of the time, you will be able to get that ramp from the 1 drop, which isn't bad. Like, if it's not a green deck, you kind of can just put the Happy or the Robin Hood in there, especially if you're ramping, like you don't really need to do the shift. You could just put that into the Inkwell. Your 2 drop's fine. There'll be a very small case where you have to ramp with your 2 drop, but we take that. We're still trying to aim for Mickey Mouse over Pleakley, but if we have to use a Pleakley line, that's fine. And to be fair, as a 3/4, he trades up with all of the 2 drops in the game, so I'm not going to oversell Pleakley and say this card's cracked and what you need to be playing right now. But it's interesting to see, like sometimes I was like, hang on, it's a lot better right now that I've got Pleakley on the board than I do have Mickey. And again, start singing the removal once you get to the Beast, and once you get to Dock, you can start just drawing a bunch of cards and like outvaluing them with every corner. So yeah, it was just kind of really fun to play, and it was just one of these lists where I was like, hold on, I feel like there's something here. Not to like make a tier 1 list, but like, hold on, there's this like Sapphire Steel list that I think is fairly playable. I say that there's only 3 Sapphire cards in the deck, or 4, sorry, since adding Pleakley and taking the Lawrence out. But take that Gantu out, put the Baymax back in. You've got a Sapphire list working there for you. But yeah, it seemed kind of fun, just a different direction for the deck. I think definitely one to play at locals if it's like, oh wait, this is a list I kind of like. Maybe you could just pick it up at a bit more of a casual level for now. I do have an event in Germany. And again, it's this event where I've been trying loads of different lists with different decks, and it's like, I feel like I could play Ruby Amethyst. I feel like I could play Steel Song. I feel like I could play all these decks that are just like having this fair game into all the other matchups and like just become another person playing another one of those lists. But in the end of the day, it felt like Kiwi was just calling me back. So we're definitely going to be taking a version of Kiwi, and this was the first list that I played that kind of like made me go, oh wait a minute, there might be a different direction than just playing Alice on 3 and start warding stuff up. So yeah, just definitely some cool lists. Like if you're not into the mood of playing in this quite wide meta and you want to try something different, I think these two are really fun options to just enjoy set 7 with, really. With no set 7 cards, I don't believe. No, none at all. But yeah, both good fun. Just thought I'd share some lists.